This is, I'm really going to give a summary of two particular projects that we did that have a crowdsourcing and IIIF element. So the background really is that we have been working with a few different people to put together a kind of reusable crowdsourcing platform, and that started with some work that we did for the Indigenous Digital Archive, which I'll talk about first, and then continued with a project for the National Library of Wales, which I'll talk about second. So the background to the Indigenous Digital Archive, this is an image from Carlisle Indian School, and in the 19th and 20th centuries they used to take Native American children away from the tribes that they grew up in, send them away to be educated at these remote boarding schools, separated from their language background, from their families and so on. And the US National Archives has a huge number of archival records that cover these Indian schools, that cover the various Indian agencies and boards, the Bureau of Indian Affairs, and they've also started, for this project, we started adding in school yearbooks from these Indian schools. So the problem was that the content is locked away. It was on microfilm, that was digitized, but it has no finding aids, it has no cataloging, it has no metadata. It's just a pool of around 500,000 images with nothing in them that anyone can use to find that content. The same with the school yearbooks, they're uncatalogued and undescribed. There are some textual finding aids from the 1970s, but there's nothing else. So this is the kind of material we're looking at. So there's a couple of yearbook images here. There are some reports, some correspondence, some tabular data. And what we did for them was use two different approaches to get access to this content. One was to use machine learning and natural language processing, which I won't really talk about today. And the second was to allow the users of the site to do tagging and transcription to help drive search and discovery. So the real primary driver for the crowdsourcing is not to get the data to maybe re-expose it in some way, but to actually allow that data to drive navigation and discovery of that content on the site itself. Now, the primary audience was the Native American community itself, people who were in those records or whose family members are in those records, but also historians and the wider public. And the main sort of requirement is that these uncatalogued documents be discoverable by non-experts. We wanted to build a rich discovery interface, allow people to browse and search by people, places, schools, tribes, and so on, but this data didn't exist. So this is a demo of me doing some tagging on the site to show this how this works. So I'm searching for someone's name that I happen to know is in the records. This is searching the OCR. And I find a page from a 1930s yearbook from Albuquerque Indian School. And when I'm looking at it, I see, oh, there's some interesting things in here. It mentions Navajo. So I'm going to tag the word Navajo in here. So this will take a second or so. So I can autocomplete on an existing set of tags. This is kind of a folksonomy that builds up over time on the site. So I've tagged this as Navajo, and you can see there's now a tag on the right-hand side that's also a clickable link, so I can find other things that are Navajo. And now I'll tag a place, so I'm going to tag New York. And so this is drawing on existing vocabulary that the system knows about that's been built up from previous tagging or from machine learning. But now I notice the name of an Indian school in here, and these are really key for the discovery of objects on this site. So I'm going to tag that. This is Wyoming Indian School. And there's no definitive record of these schools. In fact, I think the most comprehensive list of them has actually come from this site. So I'm trying to find this in the list of existing tags. It gives me a list of Indian schools, but when I scroll down, these are sorted by popularity, by the way, not alphabetically. It's not there. So what I'm going to do is add a new entity to the list, put in Wyoming Indian School, and tag this. And so now we've got a new category on the site that I can tag it with, and it's done. So this is the kind of process of adding tags, but when they're added, they can also be used for discovery. So if I go to the schools page here in the site, and I look down at the bottom, I see Wyoming Indian School, which I just added in this tagging process. And it takes me to the right IIIF manifest, but also takes me right to the page that I just tagged. So there's a kind of circular flow between adding tags and building navigation through the site. But I can also click on other tags that I made, like New York, and find all the things that have been tagged with New York. And sure enough, when I scroll down this list, the document that I tagged is there. So the end users of a site are kind of building up navigation and accessibility for the site through the process of doing this crowdsourcing and tagging. So that's the first project, and this was a kind of early experiment with doing this. It's all IIIF and web annotation. It's completely standard open APIs. But the National Library of Wales had a kind of more ambitious aim. So they've done lots of crowdsourcing projects. They have strong engagement with their local volunteers who work with the National Library. They have done lots of successful projects before, but they were mostly bespoke one-off projects that were built for that particular use. What they wanted to have was a crowdsourcing platform for Wales that they could use to build lots and lots of crowdsourcing projects and that could be open sourced and used by others as well. So the aim was to have a kind of CMS for crowdsourcing projects that would use IIIF for all the digitized objects, and NLW were already heavy users of IIIF. It had to support the web annotation data model. It had to be multilingual, so it had to support both Welsh and English, which is a requirement in Wales. And it should support all different kinds of crowdsourcing use case. So transcription, tagging of photographs, structured data such as forms and official records and so on. So this is me looking at the live production site. You can see there are 16,000 images that have been annotated in this site so far. And what I'm looking at the moment is I'm not creating some tags, I'm looking at existing tags that volunteers have made already. So these are social photographs from North Wales, and someone's geotagged this photograph with Google Maps and the date that it was taken. Other people have tagged them with the names of people who are in here. The key thing is people doing this tagging know the people in these photographs. It's a community thing. So they know that this is Glinda, or this is the Carnival in 1961, and so on. So the community can engage with this stuff, but also then make this available for other people to explore. I'm going now to the latest version of the platform. This is Madoc that's been open sourced. It's available on Git. And I'm looking at the same project, but I'm going to create some content this time. So I'm going to go to one of these photographs, tag the whole photograph. I'm going to use Google Maps to tag this with a geolocation. So I think this is Tanigricia and Blaenau I think it's probably not. It's nearby somewhere. But I can move this to the appropriate place that I think it is. It'll annotate this with the latitude and longitude. I can choose a date, 1961 say, and I can describe it. The important thing is the models that are used to drive this UI are configurable in the system, so it doesn't require developers to do this. You can build a new tagging or transcription model, or in this case I'm tagging someone's face and putting in a name. And you can do all this in a relatively user-friendly way, and it will render the UI for you. You can import the IIIF content and associate it with the model. And that doesn't require you to have any special technical knowledge. I'm going to go to a different site now. And this one's a transcription project. And I think this is a less sophisticated transcription UI than From the Page offers, but this obviously does other things too. So in this case, this is the diaries of a Welsh artist. And I'm going to go in here and look at one of the 1991 diary entries and do some transcription so I can transcribe a diary entry. And then choose a date. So there's lots of different kind of components you can plug together. There's transcription, box drawing, tagging with points, using autocomplete against control vocabularies, tagging with maps, tagging with dates, and so on. I'm going to end this because the demo continues a little bit longer. So this has been open sourced. It's available on Git at this address. It's a work in progress, so we're in the process of finishing off a round of new development for National Library of Wales. So there are a few features and bug fixes that are going in over the next few weeks, but it's already there for you to download and try. I think the big differences from the previous version that was deployed to production for National Library of Wales is it's much more self-contained, it's completely containerized, you can bring it up with Docker Compose, you don't need any infrastructure to run the whole thing. It will come up with an annotation server with the CMS, with the bits of tooling and integration built in. It has some UI and performance improvements, and also previously it used Transifex to do multilingual translation, but Transifex charge you money for that. So it's now been changed so it can use Git to handle the translation for you, and it can bring in files from a Git repo and use those to populate the UI, and that's where we are now. So if you want to find out more, as I said, there's a Git repo here at Madoc platform. We have our cultural heritage website for Digirati that has some articles about Madoc and other things. There's a medium.com with lots of different links to articles that include this. And then if anyone wants to contact me, my email address is on the screen.